bringing you new names with a new take on the blues. This week we welcome Joe Louis Walker, or I should say welcome back, because he was here last year, and his new album, Blues of the Month Club, finds him getting a little help from legendary names like the Memphis Horns and Steve Cropper. Joe Louis will be performing a track from the new album in a few minutes, armed only with an acoustic guitar, but first we're going to have a bit of a chat. Welcome to Take It to the Bridge again, Joe Louis Walker. Thanks very much for coming in.
Nice to see you again, Robert.
And you. This is a great record, and it seems a shame in a way to talk about the people you're playing with on the album, because it sounds like we're not paying sufficient respect to you. But how did you actually hook up with Steve Cropper?
Well, we played in 1988 for the inauguration of the President of the United States. It was a big rhythm and blues show, and I was one of the, well, about the only artist that was in the soul part of the show and the blues part. And
right.
There was a lot of people, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Jimmy Vaughan, and Albert Collins, Percy Sledge, and da-da-da-da-da. And when I was rehearsing with the band, which is a great band, it had Billy Preston and all these people, Dr. John and Steve and Duck Dunn. In the soul segment, I was playing. Then in the blues segment, I was playing with Cropper. And when he heard me play, his ears sort of perked up, you know.
Yeah.
So we fast-forwarded to 1994, and we were going to make this album.
Blues of the Month Club?
Yeah.
Check it out.
And they were looking for, you know, they were sending me all kind of producers' names, and I just wasn't 100% with any of them. And then I did a gig with Booker T and MGs, and a little light went off my head, asked Cropper, because he doesn't do a lot of things. And I told him, don't make a decision, just hear us play first, because we were playing right before then. And when I got through playing, he said, you know what, I know you. So after that, we became like good friends, and we were able to make the record with him there, and it was just a blessing.
It's a bit of a daunting prospect for you, that you've got this sort of godlike figure in the corner going, yes, no, yes, no.
No, because I've been to his house and I've seen his wife bossing around. So, you know, he's been to my house, he's seen my wife bossing around. So we're cool, you know. It's like he really, it was like we were making a Steve Cropper record once we got into it, because he just likes it so much. And we're going to do the next two records together.
And the track you're about to play for us, Your Lyin Eyes, what's that about?
It's an acoustic track. I wrote it for my XXX.
Really? Doesn't sound like a terribly friendly thing to have done from the title.
Like to say, stuff happens, you know.
And has your XXX heard it yet?
Oh, I'm sure she heard it. You know, but it's all in, you know, exorcism.
Right. No harm intended.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. Anyways, let's hear it. Joe Louis Walker, great to see you again.
Thanks
very much for coming in. Here we go.
I know you've been lying. I know you've been lying, baby. I know you've been lying, 'cause I can see it in your eyes. I can see it in your... They call me a fool. They call me a fool, baby. Call me a fool, 'cause I'm still in love with you. Still in love with you. I'm gonna leave you alone. Leaving you alone, baby. Leaving you alone. 'Cause you steady doing me wrong. You steady doing me. I'm gonna let you be. Gonna let you be, baby. Gonna let you be. 'Cause you don't look at me. You don't look at me. You don't treat me right. 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 But I can tell you've been lying. Tell you've been lying. I can tell you've been lying, baby, 'cause I can see it in your eyes. They call me a They're calling me a fool. They're calling me a fool, 'cause I'm still in love with you. 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 All right. I said, I've got a girl, she lives up on a hill. Well, I've got a girl, lives up on a hill. I've tried to quit her, but I love that baby still. She got eyes like diamonds, shine like Klondike gold. She got eyes like diamonds, shine like Klondike gold. All I want's a little love before you get too old. Don't the moon look good shining through the trees? Don't the moon look good shining through the trees? Don't my woman look nice right here next beside me? I said you look fine, but you're gonna die someday. You look fine, you're gonna die someday. All I want's a little love before you pass away. Hey, baby, where'd you stay last night? You tell me, baby, where'd you stay last night? Your hair's messed up and your clothes ain't fitting you right. My woman, she's a jockey, she's teaching me how to ride. My baby, she's a jockey, she's teaching Joe Louis how to ride. Put the thing in the middle, move from side to side. All I know how to do. One more time.
Joe Louis Walker, pretty good, Joe. Thanks very much. All the excitement of seeing you here, I forgot to ask you what that song was called.
Really, it's a combination of songs. It's a little bit of Rebecca Smiley Lewis. It's a little bit of my man Big Joe Turner. My woman's a jockey. Teach me how to ride. It's a little bit
Medley.
of yeah. That's the words.
Is that on your new album?
No, actually, we're gonna put it on a live album one of these days because we do it live.
Let's talk a bit about your long and illustrious past, Joe. You grew up in San Francisco in the 50s and 60s. Was that a very bluesy sort of place to grow up?
Well, you know, my mother and father came from the South, and my father's from Mississippi, my mother's from Arkansas, and they brought the blues with them when they came out. So you pretty much, if you walked in my house when I was a kid, it was pretty much, you would just walk into where they was at before they left. Right. So it was, you know, the blues around the clock on the radio and on the record player. But when I was a teenager, all my cousins were musicians, and I would, be their roadie when I was 12, 13 years old, and schlepp their equipment around. Then they let me play if I carried it. They let me play after they got through. So that's how I learned. And then as I got older, I played more and more. And then all the bands were putting ads for guitar players, and it would be a rock band looking for a guitar player, a bluesy guitar player, and I'd answer the ad. So they would be the rock, and I'd be the blues.
Right. Because there was a big blues revival of it. There was great sudden upsurge of interest in the middle to late 60s, wasn't there? In the blues?
Yes, and a lot of the old bluesmen would come and play the clubs in San Francisco, and there was a couple of clubs, one called the Matrix, and one was called the Dottie Stardust Lounge, and I was the guitar player in both of those clubs for about 6 years. So I got to meet a lot of old guys and play with them. And
you played with some extremely illustrious people, I know, haven't you?
When I was very young, I was sort of, this young kid. You couldn't get rid of him because he'd bother you to just, hang around you. So I got to be a pest. But most of the old guys, they saw a little bit of themselves in me, so they were patient with me.
Who did you learn from, particularly?
Oh, I learned slide guitar from Mississippi Fred McDowell, who was kind enough to show me some things. Earl Hooker I played with for a while, and R.L. Burnside, who I got to know later on. I learned slide from regular guitar, I'd say. I learned a lot from Earl Hooker, Freddie King, B.B. King, Buddy Guy, Wayne Bennett, Mel Brown, who were the two guitar players with Bobby Bland. I learned a lot from a guy named Mike Bloomfield because I lived with him for a couple of years.
Oh, right, the guy from Electric Flag.
Right, and before that, Paul Butterfield. He was with Paul Butterfield. And so I was fortunate that I learned from and then I knew a lot of guys who were in rock bands like Jorma Kaukonen with the Jefferson Starship. I knew him for years, and I learned a little stuff from a guy named Jerry Miller, played with Moby Grapes, a good friend of mine. I learned to play. He's a great player. He plays everything, just not rock. He plays jazz. And
incredible selection of teachers you had there.
Well, I was fortunate that I lived in a time and a place where everything, you'd go to the film auditorium and you would literally see a bill with the Grateful Dead, Ornette Coleman, and Muddy Waters.
Yeah.
I was on a bill once with Thelonious Monk. Yeah. It was my group, Thelonious Monk and Mike Bloomfield. Yeah. And you see that all the time. Yeah.
And how does it feel now to be playing in the UK?
I love it here in England. I mean, I think. And I tell this to all, when I go to Chicago, I make them mad because I say, this is the home of the blues. England is the home of the blues.
So you like playing to British audiences?
Yeah.
Because you've interrupted this tour to actually come and play with us here.
Yeah, I don't want to come to this part of the world and not come to England.
One question I must ask you, Joe, you gave up playing the blues in 1975 for 10 years, I believe. Why was that?
Well, a lot of my friends were dropping like flies. And
drugs
and hard living and living wrong. And I just felt, if I didn't change, that I would be a part of the casualty list. So as things happen, it's something I really didn't plan so much as I went to I had a friend who was a soul singer as well as a gospel singer named Daniel Boone. And he said, why don't you come to rehearsal with me? And I went to rehearsal with this gospel group, and the bass player didn't happen to show up that day. So they said, would you play bass? And Boone said, no, I'll play bass, let Joe play guitar. And I went, they said, can you do a show with us tomorrow? And I went to do one show and ended up staying 10 years.
Oh, well, that's a good introduction to your second song because it's called I'll Get to Heaven on My Own.
Right.
'cause I got my own, and I'll get to heaven on my own. On my own. On my own. On my own. Oh, well, I'm not ready for no long black hearse now. No, no funeral in no great big church. Well, if I get sick, you know I'll stay at home. I will get to heaven on my own. On my own. On my own. On my own. You know I will. I'm gonna get there. But you know I will. If I got to run, I'm gonna get there. If I got to crawl, I'm gonna get there. If I got to walk, I'm gonna get there. I've got to move. I've got to move. I might see my sister when I get there. I might see my father when I get there. I might see my grandmother when I get there. 'Cause you know I will. But you know I will. And you know I will. And you know I will.
Joe, thanks very much. The living custodian of the blues, I believe you're called. I think you lived up to it there. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Best of luck with the tour, which goes on for quite a lot of...
Page and